is a tax analyst and executive director of the Revenue Mobilization Africa. So you're welcome to Eyewitness News. So the Vice President has taken issue with the modus operandi of the GRA. First of all, do you agree that the operations of the GRA is tantamount to harassing businesses under the guise of collecting tax revenue? That's what the Vice President thinks. Do you agree that that's the model they appear to be deploying, which model is archaic and ought to be abandoned?
Respectfully, I disagree. Respectfully, I think the Vice President is a little bit far from the operations of the GRA in this regard. We were all here when they were using the Rambo-style approach that you just spoke about. They have a task force unit. And I think you should also understand this one. For a company that is evading taxes, a company, especially some of the foreign companies that were evading taxes, I don't think there was anything wrong with a company that said they will not go. You remember when they started the EVAT system? Some companies said they would not do it. And then the GRA had to descend on them to tell them and force them to do it. I think, the GRA operates on legal remits. And I think it's rather unfortunate that the Vice President said that. And I'm saying that on the grounds that when the Vice President said they set ambitious targets, I don't believe it. They actually achieved their targets. So it is not an ambitious one. I rather think that...
Okay, actually, they do sometimes. They even say that they have overshot what they even were hoping to.
Sometimes they exceed their targets.
Exceed is the word I was looking for, yes.
But Omar, let me travel far with you on this one again. Again, let me remind you, if we were to be, and I've told people in forums and I insist, if we were to add the exemptions that we grant, so Omar, you are my tax collector, okay? For example, you are my tax collector, and you were supposed to collect from 10 people. They were all supposed to give you 10 cities. If you were to add all the 10 cities, you were supposed to come and report 100 cities to me. If I granted them in your field of work, if I granted them exemptions of 40 cities, I have reduced your gain. And so if in this country, we all sit up and we realize that, look, the exemptions that we are granting, they are tax expenditures. So they actually have to be added. You have to add the exemptions that you are granting to the total collections they do in a year. That one alone would have shot the tax collections to an excessive figure. For example, this year alone, you are targeting on granting $449 million of tax exemptions. Add it to their collections for the year. If you have not granted them, then they would have collected that. That even aside, if the Vice President actually looked at what he's saying very carefully, you'd realize that, look, if collections were enforced well, like rightly he said, not in a Rambo style, but the GRA responded to this, our calls for no Rambo style, by introducing the relationship officers. You can cross-check with the GRA. They have done with the GRA. They've done some very wonderful things. They have actually introduced the relationship officers. They also have a 24-hour call line. They also have the Vice President's own initiative, which is a digitalized platform for payment. And this has actually helped in collections. The only thing you need to do is to actually help people and explain to people how to use these platforms, and also ensure that the relationship officers are on the ground. You know, banks have relationship officers, and you know how it works for them. Let's introduce same, and it works for them. And so I think if all these are done, rather, would rather be expecting to do what? Collecting more. Again, if government were rather expanding opportunities for jobs, okay, if what the debts have been to, all the debts we've collected, if we invested all these debts into sectors that will give us returns, people will gain more employment, all those companies that will be created will pay company income tax. The payees, actually those who actually will work there, will pay as you earn, and it will mean that the returns will have gone higher for workers and companies, and that would have meant that the government itself would have collected more. So if they are not even over ambitious, the number of people that are occurrences like what we call the issues of transfer pricing, all in the name of illicit financial flows. You know, companies that are working in Ghana who engage in transfer pricing, there's something we call re-entry. Companies may pick gold from Ghana, they tag the gold from here, they'll smuggle it into Togo and enter into Ghana with it again, and that would mean that they will pay less by ECOWAS protocols. All these happened in 2018 alone. Gold that left Ghana to UAE. In the books of Ghana, we recorded 2 billion. In the books of the UAE, they recorded 7 billion. We have lost taxes on 5 million cedis worth of gold. Sorry, $5 million worth of gold. So Umaru, you see, if we were looking at all these rent taxes, night and dawn economy, there are a lot of spaces. If we were collecting well, my brother, the GRA target should have been more. If they were collecting 1,000 today as their target, I expected them to be collecting 1,500. If they had all these, I'm listening to you very well, okay? And then if you look at the issues that I've stated, they are all in the game. We can prove them. There are goods that are coming to Ghana. They will book the goods that they are transit goods to Burkina Faso. By the time they get to the middle somewhere, those goods find themselves back into our market. All these, talk to the GRA officials. They'll tell you about it. So really, that in 2018, 2017, there were actually exemptions that were granted that didn't go through Parliament, back and forth. So my brother, look, on issues of exemptions alone, on issues of corruption, where people, tax evasion, the people who were actually abusing our tax regimes. Some time ago, there were companies that were, the free zones were giving them the opportunity to operate for 9 years before paying taxes. There was a particular company that operated for 9 years, changed them to another one, and then changed them 3 times. So, I mean, they were abused, one-ton abuses. So these targets that were set by the GRA, my brother, if we sit down, I can prove to you that if these were not the things that were worrying us, corruption alone, look at the Auditor General's report and align some of the corruption to tax exemption and tax corruption. Okay. You realize that there are a lot of monies that we are losing, that if the collections were very good and well guided, my brother, I agree with the Vice President about no Rambo aside, which actually the relationship officers are handling as we speak now, but their targets have never been overly ambitious. Okay, so that has nothing to do with the Rambo style. Okay, so you agree in part with what he said and disagree with the other part? Not in part. If you say part, that means there's only one page that he mentions no Rambo style, which has already been addressed as I speak. Because, you know, there's a task force unit. But I'm sure you know that there's a nice word we use, reasonable force. Yes. For example, if you've not paid your, you know, when they were using the EVAT, electronic VAT, and companies, to the extent I mentioned to you, senior, foreign companies that were telling us that they would not go onto that system. My brother, I mean, how else do you convince somebody when a law-backed agency like GRA comes to your shop and tells you, we are going to have this thing for you to check through? But tomorrow, let me ask you again, the GRA officials who were at the business points, they were not actually walking through the shops and harassing people. I went to about 10 shops. I started from the actual Welcome, and I went to a lot of the Welcome shops, Palace shop. They were seated at one place. They only audit at a point. My brother, if you have nothing to hide, how worrisome would that be? Okay, the person will just check through your books. What about this master idea? He actually talked about it when he did his lecture at the UPSA, and he's repeated that today. The issue of the flat tax rate in 2025 and also the tax amnesty to businesses if he becomes president. I go with him on the issue of the flat tax rate. But then we need to kind of scrutinize it and look at it very well. Because then you make sure you test the regressive nature it could be. Because if Umaru, you were importing 10,000 goods, okay? And I was just importing 5 or 10. And we are giving the same percentage, then that means, look, you are benefiting more than I'm doing. And that's what we call regressive taxation. At the end of the day, somebody gets, the rich continue to be rich, the poor will continue to be where they are, the middle people might drop. And what comes up of all this is that you expand the poverty gap. Now, on the issue of amnesty, again, the regressive nature of it again. So, if Omar, you were owing $30,000, and I was just owing some 600 cities, and we all granted amnesty, I mean, at the end of the day, will you tell me it's actually progressive? It is not, my brother. And on the same point, let me tell you what, let's be careful. So it means that if, I'm not advising somebody to do, but I'm saying, so if a company sits back and will be waiting for the vice president, based on what he just said today, that means the company will be swerving the tax official and wait for January or June next year to get that amnesty. Omar, you don't think somebody can do it? Well, we'll wait to see what happens. But thank you so much for speaking to us. Thank you. That's Geoffrey Kabute Okanse. He's a tax analyst and also executive director of the Revenue Mobilization